Thank you for watching this episode of the She Dreams in Color video series. It is important to note that this conversation includes dialogue around sexual abuse and childhood trauma.
In teaching your brain how to properly function around trauma, you remember a lot of things. Sometimes they're things you don't want to remember. Sometimes they're memories you've never had that are happy memories.
Life's a short and precious thing, sweet like honey, and it sure can sting, sure can sting.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of the She Dreams in Color video series. I'm joined today by Candace Stamper, a Charlotte small business owner. She actually owns her own hair salon, beauty store, beautician place. I feel like the terms for your business are so antiquated. You're so much more than what it sounds like it is.
Yes, I would agree with that.
What term do you go by?
I usually go by hairstylist.
Hairstylist.
Or just stylist.
Stylist.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So a Charlotte small business owner in the hairstylist industry and very talented. So thank you for joining us today because we want to talk about occupations and personal obstacles. But we start with occupation because I think yours is an occupation that so many young women are drawn to because it's fun. And now that we have YouTube, it's fun on paper, right?
Yes, it's fun on paper. Yeah.
I kind of saw you go, oh, God. And now with YouTube, we're able to see the process. We're able to practice it when we're young. We can practice it on ourselves. We have exposure to it. But really, I want you to share from the beginning how you got into your occupation and what that journey has been like.
Well, thanks for having me today. I got into it. I was very young. I did my own hair. I can count on one hand prior to being a professional how many times I've been to a salon to have my hair done. And they were not great experiences. So I took matters into my own hands and started doing my own hair. And then that kind of went into doing friends' hair and then my mother's hair and her friend's hair and so on and so forth. So I started going to real college first as per my parents' request and just wasn't happy and decided to branch out on my own and go to hair school. That's what I really wanted to do. That's the only thing I really had passion behind. It was something creative that I could pour myself into. And I like physical touch. I like touching people. We're one of the last industries that we do that in our jobs. We touch people along with massage therapists and a few others. And I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy connecting to people physically and energetically.
That's interesting to hear because a lot of people don't think about those elements when they think about the job.
Yeah.
And that's why, when we say, oh, it looks fun, remember the meme that said what I do, what people think I do, what my parents think I do. Yeah. You have an industry that's not immune to that belief system either.
Right.
What are some of the parts of the job that were natural to you that just clicked and made sense? Because there's science and math, and now that you're a business owner, a lot of business savvy that you have to have. So what naturally clicked for you?
The science was kind of an afterthought. So for me, I'm a hands-on. I need to touch. I need to do in order to learn. And so once I started that part, it just was very natural. The science was great to figure out why the things happened because then you learn how to fix them. But I think just in a general sense, it came pretty naturally and probably because I'd had some experience on my own to begin with. That probably helped with that as well.
So now looking back, how young were you when you can say, I was doing that then?
12, 13 is when I started.
Did you watch someone? Because you didn't have YouTube. I'm not aging you, but you didn't have
YouTube.
YouTube.
It was just kind of trial and error. You know the basics of how hair color is put on. You don't know the science behind it. So results may vary. Yeah. But just trial and error. Again, I'm a hands-on learner. So doing is how I learn best.
For younger girls, their hair is an expression, a form of expression. You couldn't get tattoos at 12 and 13.
No.
So, I found myself wanting to express myself through my hair as much as I was allowed to.
Right.
So when you take matters into your own hands, you really have a lot more freedom with it, even if it's against your parents' wishes.
Yeah.
You can cut it all off, and what can they do about it?
Yeah,
Did you have a cut it all off phase?
I didn't. No, I had lots of different hair colors. I've probably been every hair color you can imagine. Several different hairstyles, but never cut it all off. I think because I am rebellious in that sense. And everybody says, oh, when you go to hair school, you're going to start with long hair. When you leave, you're going to cut it all off. And I'm like, not me. Nope. And I was one of the very few that didn't. So I think just that theory of my change came in the form of color as opposed to big transformational cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did real college go? I like how you say that.
It was terrible. Well, I shouldn't say it was terrible. I just didn't put forth effort. It was kind of like doing the bare minimum to keep my health insurance under my parents' name once I graduated high school.
How do you make the decision to stop going to college?
I worked for money, and I realized how powerful money is and can be. And I realized I was throwing away my stepdad's money by not putting forth effort and dropping classes and doing the bare minimum and barely making it through and barely passing classes. So I decided that rather than waste his money, I would waste my own if that were the case, and just pull the trigger and go to school.
Nice. And
Yeah.
what is beauty school like? Because a lot of people talk about this occupation has this many hours of training, and cosmetology has all these hours of training. So it must be
Yeah.
pretty intense.
We have 1,500 hours of school. Your first 300 is in a classroom, and then you go onto the floor and start providing services. So you just kind of put your head down and do your work. If this is something you're passionate about, I went to hair school with people who this was their first, second, third, fourth, fifth career.
It seems like one of those fields. It's like a backup job.
Yes.
It's like your fallback job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that has actually led you as a business owner in the industry to be a voice, a leader of the stigma around stylists. So talk a little bit about how you started recognizing something had to change about it.
I think just being in the industry and working with so many different types of people, it's like the scarcity mentality. So many people have that scarcity mentality of either they're salon owners and they don't think that they're ever going to have enough stylists to make them enough money, or you're a hairstylist who thinks you're never going to have enough clients to make you the money that you want. So it becomes very competitive. And just as in school, having all of those different energies kind of combating each other, it becomes that every day in your workplace. And it's miserable, and it's not something you look forward to going into, and you're exchanging energies with people. So when you come in and you have this, this is me, my mine, and I have to fight and I have to do this, that carries into your clients, and that's the energy you put out. And so that's what you get back. So then you start getting those clients who are, this is me, this is mine, you're mine. You are here to provide me for a service. You're then put in a position as you're a service industry person. And that's not necessarily the case. We are a luxury industry. Just as you said, hairdresser is antiquated and all these terms are antiquated. I think saying we are a service industry is also antiquated because we are a luxury industry.
And that is even something like, hold on, let me think about that for a minute. I have not heard that before. It is a luxury industry service. It's a health related industry for sure. You have to, I've heard so many stories of people in your position who have recognized skin cancers or diagnosed other ailments in seeing someone's head and skin and hair. So from now on, that's the language that we will incorporate and remind everyone. This is not a need.
Yes, it's not necessary. You can brush your own hair at home. You can shampoo your own hair at home.
And what comes along with that mentality of people who believe you're there to serve them?
It becomes very disrespectful. So you almost are belittled in a sense by many people because they think that you are there to serve them. And so in the beginning, most people take all of those clients and work all of those hours, and it doesn't matter how you're treated. You put a smile on and say, okay, yes, absolutely. And then hopefully at some point you realize you don't have to do that. And then once you change your mindset in, I don't have to do this. I don't have to accept this treatment from people. I don't have to work 1,000,000 hours. I don't have to not have lunch breaks. I don't have to not have a life or not have a day off. Then your career really changes gears. And that's when you start attracting the people you do want and the people who you can build relationships with, because as fun as our job may seem, it's also very heavy. I have clients who I've done their hair since they were 12 and they're now graduating college and entering careers. I have clients who, I started doing their hair and now they're married and have families and have lost family members. It's all across the board, and you experience their life with them.
Mm.
And so it's more than just, oh my gosh, I'm going to go and sit and have my hair done and have fun with you. It truly is connecting with people and getting to know those people. Yeah.
And you talk a lot about the physical burdens on your body from the kind of work required to do the job. But that's not something also addressed or supported in your industry. And what has that journey been like?
Well, again, in hair school, they say hinge from your hips when you lean over to shampoo. That's kind of the extent of don't raise your, hands above your shoulders. And that's the extent of their teaching us ergonomics of how to do our jobs. They don't go over the countless hours of holding your arms up. They don't go over standing on concrete floors. Learning, once you get to a point in your career, again, that your body hurts and you think, oh my gosh, I've only done this for 5 or 6 years. How am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Then you start to seek out how do I keep my body in working order in order to continue doing my career?
Mm-hmm.
Most hairstylists should be, if they're not, seeing massage therapists regularly and chiropractors regularly in order to keep our bodies in working order.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize how many things go into holding your arms above your head, holding a hairdryer, even though it's fairly light, when you do it for hours on end. Specific ways that we move our hands, we tend to get arthritis, carpal tunnel, things like that. So it's a lot of being very aware of your body and taking good care of it.
And young.
Yeah.
If you start when you're 22,
Absolutely.
27, you're feeling the feels, and that's not. What can the public do from changing the language to changing the behavior in the chairs? But what else can the public do to recognize the beauty industry as a true profession, a true talent, and an industry that's lucrative of a full course of a career?
They don't, and really that's kind of what you have to do is just the education aspect. The reason that I respect a physician, for example, is because I know how long they spent in school. I know that they learn every single year updated technologies. So I think if someone knew what exactly went into our careers, that you don't go to school and learn how to braid hair and, curl hair and it's fun. Oh my gosh. When you realize we learn about your body systems and their functions, we learn chemistry. Just as you said, you have heard people say that they've helped diagnose. I personally have helped diagnose skin cancer on the scalp, thyroid conditions, liver function and kidney function issues. So knowing that it's so much more in depth and knowing what goes into our careers of what we do from the time we wake up, coming into work, and going home, what we do to care for our bodies, what we do to continue our education.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people realize there are countless hours that we spend just to stay up to date on the new trends, the new techniques. There are literally new techniques born probably every second of every day in this industry, and we have to keep up with those because it's ever changing.
Mm.
So just knowing the work that is put in behind the chair, and also, if you are an individual hairstylist that you don't work for somebody, you're your own accountant, you're your own front desk person, you're your own buyer, you do everything yourself. As a business owner, we luckily have a great team that we help split that up between, but I don't get to just go home and live my life at home.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much work outside of standing behind the chair and physically doing hair that people don't see.
Did school prepare you to be the entrepreneur this industry requires?
No. School prepares you to pass your state board exams.
Man.
And so there again, it's an antiquated system of learning because the school wants to have a high pass rate because that tends to be what brings students to their school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty outdated.
And that's rough because now you're setting up a stereotypically young woman to be an independent contractor in a salon, and come April, those taxes are due.
Yep. And when you go have your taxes done and they say you owe X amount of dollars
Yeah.
and you die a little inside because no one's ever educated you on this. And
Right.
it's a vicious cycle, because then guess what? You have estimated taxes to pay on top of that tax debt from the last year. And the hole keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Mhm.
So that's something that I do try to talk to new stylists about,
Mhm.
or stylists who are going out to booth rent to own their own business within another business.
Are there organizations helping women, people in your industry?
There are, and I actually am starting, I'm in the very baby stages of starting a local kind of chapter of an organization that will help do that and help almost work as like a union, a makeshift union for a hairstylist, in the sense of educating people on, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to make sure it's taken care of. Hey, your environment's toxic. Let me tell you, your boss is taking advantage of you. They're using you as a cash cow. Let me show you how to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's called CLT Hair Collaborative. And again, it's in baby stages. There isn't really anything out there that operates like this. So just trying to navigate something literally from the dust. And maybe there is that I just don't know about.
Is it an inclusive industry? It looks that way on the outside.
Our salon's very inclusive. As long as you do great hair,
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important thing, and you're a great team member. Having salons, our salon included, as a safe space that welcomes all people. We respect your pronouns. We ask things like that when you come in. We're starting to maybe get there, but it's also pocketed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I've had people who reach out to us and say, I specifically reached out to you because I saw on your social media, on your website, whatever it may be, that you're inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay if I come there? So you have to imagine, with our salons for employees being exclusive, the clientele is also exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for a lot of people to find hair salons that they're comfortable going into, that they know that they're going to be respected.
That makes sense, because we definitely see racial divides in hair salons. It's such an
Yes.
intimate thing. You'll see a lot of conversation on social media about white salons not doing Black women's hair, or not even having the knowledge, or not even being open to it. There's like a whole viral thing of calling and they're like, no.
Part of the antiquated education system for hairstylists, because you're not taught anything other than Caucasian hair in school.
Wow.
Now I
For passing the test.
For passing the test.
Wow.
And it depends on where you went to school. I went to school in Spartanburg. So I didn't do very much Caucasian hair in hair school. And I remember my fellow students being like, what are you doing? You can't do that. I'm like, this is what I know how to do. So this is what I'm going to do. That's another thing with the collaborative that I'm hoping to be able to connect hair salons. So we kind of break down that divide and become, in general, more inclusive. That it becomes more of an open conversation, because for someone to say, I don't know how to do that, also means you're not trying to learn. So the same with anything. If you're not trying to learn, that's your responsibility. So it's no one's fault but your own that you don't know how to do any sort of hair other than Caucasian hair.
For sure. So. For sure. When you talk about your pathway into your occupation, did you see yourself being a business owner when you were a little girl? Like, is that what you thought would be happening?
I had no clue until I spent so much time in situations that made me so unhappy that I could make it different. And that was kind of when I connected with my business partner, that was kind of the bottom line of, we can make it different. We can make this a place that people want to come in and work. We can make this a place that's inclusive. We can make this a place that hears concerns and hears voices of your employees.
Does your occupation intertwine or run parallel to your personal obstacle?
I would say yes, because it's all about holding that space for someone else. It's, for me, a lot of my life has been offering other people things that I was never offered, whether it be emotional support, whether it be physical touch, whether it be something that makes you feel good about yourself, even as far as just saying words, giving people words of affirmation. So most definitely.
And it always reveals itself when you start healing. It shows up in your workspace. It shows up in your relationship. It shows up as a mother. Sometimes those are the triggers. You have an incredible partner who loves you and supports you, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
This is weird.
Yeah.
And then when you become a mother, sometimes that can trigger a flood of experiences of asking questions about your childhood and why you had the childhood you had. So it's an ongoing process of where you are and evolving and healing to the next level.
Absolutely. It's a lifetime of work. And I think when you come to that realization, that's when you can really truly start working through things, that you don't just get to, say it out loud and it's over. You don't just get to process it once and it's over. You spend a lifetime of processing. And when you have childhood traumas, your brain is actually affected. The way you remember things are affected. Your short-term memory and long-term memory are both affected. So other things happen, once you start helping your brain function with, I personally did EMDR therapy, and it helps your brain process memories, so you can store them away, and they don't go away. They're just stored so that during the day, if you think of your brain on a train track, it goes throughout your day. It starts in the morning, ends in the evening when you go to sleep. And those memories that aren't stored can kind of be stuck on the tracks. So maybe at a specific point in your day, you hit a trigger and that memory is there. So EMDR helps you place that memory in its folder so that it's there if you want to, recall it, go back to it, but it's not stuck on the track anymore. And so in teaching your brain how to properly function around trauma, you remember a lot of things. Sometimes there are things you don't want to remember. Sometimes they're memories you've never had that are happy memories, just because it's affected how your brain functions. I'm very good at stuffing anything that needs attention of my own down and helping other people. So I kind of did that. I put everything into building the salon, building clientele. And then once I got to a place that I was like, oh, there's not really any work to do. I had a lot of work to do, a lot of personal work to do, and really started giving that attention, which I think helped me grow even more as a business owner. So kind of clearing out my personal things, so to speak, and finding focus in my personal life also helped do the same in the business life. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. It does transition. You don't realize it as much as we try to segregate the two. It does transition.
I started having some issues in my personal life of having flashbacks. And at the time I didn't know that's what they were, but my mental health was starting to decline. And so I thought, okay, I think it's time to find a therapist. Google search Psychology Today is amazing. It gives you pictures of people. It gives you a little synopsis about what they specialize in. It tells a little bit about themselves. And there was one person that I just kept coming back to, and I emailed and made an appointment, and that kind of started my journey of healing myself and everything that I had kind of shoved down for so long, that had nowhere else to come but out. And that was kind of the propellant for starting that.
I like how you said, I kept coming back to the person I kept coming back to.
Yeah.
Because seeking therapy, doing the work is not a straight line.
No, not at all.
It's usually like this messy journey of, processes. And then therapy alone isn't the only thing that you incorporate. What other types of things were you able to extend out to kind of work through your own personal journey?
With going through therapy, I actually discovered a local photographer who was doing a series of survivors, trauma survivors, and domestic violence survivors. And I was at a place in my therapy that I finally felt comfortable and confident taking the power back of my CPTSD and my traumas and saying, okay, this is what happened. This is who I am. And this is who I am kind of as a survivor. And it was the first time, other than in therapy, that I told my story. Words are very powerful, and we hear that so often, but I don't think until you say the words out loud and you watch other people listen to them, how powerful they actually are. So the series was, she recorded us. We had an interview. She recorded us, and then took a photograph with us of us at the end of the session, and she turned it into an exhibit. So you go into this exhibit. There's a portrait, but it's covered by a curtain, and you have an MP3 player. So you put the player on, you listen to the full story, and then after you've heard the person's full story, you're then allowed to open the curtain and see the photo.
Mm.
So obviously I knew, I had spoken to some of the other people who were involved and knew that their photos were under there somewhere, but I didn't know whose was whose. And I felt like I owed it to everyone to go through and listen to their stories. And in doing so, obviously I see people rotating through where I know mine is.
Oh, yeah.
Which is terrifying, because then people know who you are, and then they know your story. And then when they see you at said exhibit or in public, they know who you are. But that also is part of the power behind that, because then they know who you are, and you're here and you're full of light and you're full of love, and you're here to support other people and give them the space that you weren't given.
That thank you for sharing that. Did that set you back some?
A little bit, just in a sense of, it was local. It was in Plaza Midwood. And so that was where my business was. That was where I hung out. That's where I grocery shopped. That's where I shopped. And so knowing that so many people who probably know who you are, either you're going into their business or they're hanging out and you're seeing them now know, it's a secret that you've held for a long time, pretty much your entire life. And now the secret's out. And so it's hard to think, oh my gosh, all of these people know. That person's looking at me because they probably saw my picture and they know, and they know. And you almost have to talk to little Candace. You have to talk to that little kid and say, it's okay though. They know because you chose to tell them. And that was a little bit of a setback, but then in realizing it was part of the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the work. Like you said, it's not linear. You don't just say, oh, here's my story. Cool. Now it's over. It's work. It's everyday work. It's every month work. It's every year work. It's a lifetime of work. But then I realized how powerful it was,
Mm-hmm.
and how I now held the power. My story didn't.
Ultimately, it's your story. You're allowed to tell your truth. Did you experience that feeling of, I don't want to hurt people who hurt me, because you're a good person?
Yeah.
Did you experience that?
Absolutely. And especially with it being someone who's still so close. So it's almost like the game of telling your story without fully telling your story, telling your story without revealing the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a constant dance around, okay, I can say it this way, but I can't say it that way. And I can say this, but I can't say that, because if I give too much, they're going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, just the power behind words in telling my story of sexual trauma and of CPTSD. I have lots of clients who sat in my chair. I have friends. I have people that I didn't even know who saw the exhibit who were like, oh, can I tell you my story? Is this okay? And it also gives them power. And so it goes back to giving other people what I wasn't given. No one told me their story and made me realize how powerful the words are. So I was hoping in my own processing and my own telling my story that it would also give that space to other people and give that confidence to other people.
Which ties right back to the goal of your business and the space of your business, and just kind of the philosophy of how you carry yourself. I guess you just have to personally decide what does and doesn't need to be said. And I even tell clients as I coach them through media training, it's your story, and you tell what you want to tell when you want to tell it. And that evolves, because we also give parts of ourselves away when we do that. But it has to be for our benefit. What advice would you have to someone watching and thinking, I know I need to take a next step in unpacking childhood trauma? I don't know what that next step is.
Find a therapist.
Psychologytoday.com.
Psychology
is a great website.
Is a great website. The first person's not always the right person. Sometimes you have to go through several people who therapize you the way you need to be therapized. I don't give anything up willingly. And this particular therapist who I saw for quite some time, who helped me work through all this, always said that. She's like, you're a lot of work. She's like, we can talk about me your entire session if you want to. That's what you're paying for. But we kind of need to talk about you. She's like, I always have to trick you into thinking we're just having a conversation. But that's that's what I need. I don't need to sit and be asked, well, how do you feel about that? Some people do. Some people are an open book. Mine, everything's been shoved down for so long that I needed somebody willing to pull it out. Yeah. Letter by letter, word by word, sentence by sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just giving yourself the grace and giving yourself the time to find someone who you can communicate well with.
And the art outlet was really a beautiful addition to that experience for you, particularly,
Absolutely.
Right?
At some point, I'm sure the series will continue, and it was called the Survivor Series by Babeland Photography.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I wonder if every person in the experience in the exhibit had a different experience.
Absolutely.
Because we're all in different levels of healing and processing and sharing.
It's very apparent hearing them tell their story, where they are, but then also being able to talk to them and then seeing their forms of art and their ways of coping.
Well, Candace, anything else you think is important that we share with people who may be drawn to this conversation to hear from you directly? Because I always think it's important to hear straight from someone who's experienced either an occupation or an obstacle that they may align with.
Don't ever let anybody tell you can't do it. Don't let yourself tell you that you can't do it, because if the passion is there and the drive is there and the ideas are there, it can happen. And whatever it is that no one's given you, you have the opportunity to give that to other people. That goes obviously for obstacles and trauma as well. Whatever you were not offered, you can offer other people.
That's beautiful. And that's something I think goes on a Post-it note and goes on the mirror.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't receive it doesn't mean you can't give it.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we just believe I was never nurtured or cuddled. I can't be. And the first thing you said was, I love to touch people. Yeah. Like, I just want to have that contact. So you can give what you've never received. It is in you. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable. I'm sorry I teared up. You said that thing and I was like, ooh, that was hard. Okay, hold on. But I appreciate your honesty, because I think other people need to hear the words directly and know that they're not alone. And as you said, words have power.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
With every woman who shares her story on the She Dreams in Color video series, we like to have a t-shirt that kind of amplifies her message. And today Candace talked about using her opportunity to give other people a space to be seen and heard and be themselves. And we truly believe that empowered women empower women. And this t-shirt says just that: empowered women empower women. And this shirt is by Solidarity and Company, a local Charlotte business, Black woman owned. And the goal is to empower all voices, not just women, and give them the platforms to know that when we heal ourselves, we can also in turn help heal others.
It's our turn. Won't let it burn. It's our turn.